How do you think about your approach to company culture?
I like that. I think once someone told me like the first 50 people you hire for your team will decide what culture you will have when you are 10 times that number, 500. And so I think culture needs to be something that happens natural because of the people you hire, right? So obviously you can have processes and ceremonies and you can celebrate the small wins. And I think we actually need to work on that matter. We forget to celebrate small wins sometimes, but I think the culture is created based on the people you have around you, based on a mission. Okay, so I think everyone at Maven has an amazing opportunity to work on a product that is actually impacting lives of both pets and pet owners.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My name is Joao Camargo, and my guest here today is Guilherme Coelho, who is a co-founder and CEO of Maven Pet. Guilherme, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really, really excited to have this conversation.
Thank you, Joao. I'm excited as well. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start off with you just telling everyone a little bit more about Maven Pets? When we were first having the conversation, you were telling me all about the concept, and I was dumbfounded that nobody, at least that I've heard of, had thought about this before, but also how crucial and how interesting it is. So why don't we just start off there with any context you want to share about the company?
Yeah. So actually, I've been in the pet space for 10 years now, and I grew up with pets. I've had pets my entire life, so I've seen both worlds, right? I've seen the pet care world from the point of view of a pet owner, and then I work side by side with vets. I've been in veterinary hospitals. I've interviewed hundreds of pet owners, and I understand the good and the bad things about being pet owners, right? And so our goal with Maven is to make sure that a journey as a pet owner can be as smooth and as enjoyable as possible, right? So early on at Maven, when we were interviewing people, there's actually a super interesting duality about being pet owner. And we at the time we were doing like word clouds of things that people were mentioning. And on the good side, you have things such as joy, love. And then on the bad side, it's stressful, it's overwhelming. And so when you double down on the bad things about being a pet owner hard, you get things such as, I have no idea how they're feeling. I don't know if they are in pain. I don't know if the exercise is enough. I don't know if they are sleeping well. I don't know if because they are scratching their ears, something is wrong. And so our idea at Maven is to help pet owners, guide pet owners through their journey through data, right? Through technology. And so what we develop is a small sensor that goes into the collars of cats and dogs. Just like we have our own wearables, and there's plenty of human wearables out there.
Yes.
Now there's one for pets that can monitor them 24/7, activity, sleep, respiratory rate, heart rate, water consumption, itching, and then understand early on if there are meaningful fluctuations so that the pet owners can act as early as possible. And so very quickly, that's the story and a little bit of how we founded Maven back in 2021.
Boom. Oh man, that's so cool. Because man, I think health is something that's I know health is something that I'm extremely passionate about. The wearables, having that data, understanding sleep, understanding the basal metabolic things that are happening, to be aware of our own circumstances and take care of that. But then when we look at pets, everybody's clueless. Nobody knows what's happening. It's like, yeah, maybe the dog isn't eating a little bit, is feeling a little bit different today. The cat hasn't eaten as much as he used to. It's not drinking as much water. All these things that doesn't allow us to have that connection. So, man, when you're explaining this thing to me, I was like, oh, how did people not think about this before? And clearly you had thought about it. And you've developed it, which is really, really awesome. Tell me a little bit more about the response that people have had when they find out that Maven exists and that they can have all this information, this data for their pets.
Yeah. So nowadays, the same way there's two kind of personas within Maven, and how we see them is your pet just got diagnosed with some sort of condition, right? So allergic condition, joint problems, a heart problem, and then you want to make sure that you keep on top of their health, right? And then you look for solutions like health monitoring and respiratory rate for dogs or heart rate for cats, and then you find about Maven. And so in that moment, and when you subscribe to Maven, and then when you have a way to on your phone see how your dog is doing, and we have like a color system that let you know immediately if something is odd or not, people feel more assure, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's peace of mind. Now they can
Mm-hmm.
relax, right? And then on the other end, we have pet owners that unfortunately they lost a pet before, like very suddenly. They realized that something was wrong on a late stage, and there was basically nothing they could do about it. And so now on their second or third pet, or the other one, they want to do better, right? So they want to
Mm-hmm.
be on top of their health from day one, because they had this scary situation before that
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to happen again. And so I feel like pets are the new kids, right? So 70% of the households in the United States have at least one pet. You now have the dual income, no kid pet owners, entire demographic, and people are spending a lot of money on their pets, right? So people are feeding them their pets $500-600 worth of food monthly, and so they also want to understand their pets better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just
Mm-hmm.
the other day, we had one user that thought that she was waking up because her cat was playing around in the room and in the bed. And then when they actually join Maven and they start to look at the sleep patterns of their cat and compare with their own sleep patterns, they realize that the owner was actually waking up the cat. So we make
Mm-hmm.
assumptions that are wrong, and we have plenty of clinical studies that actually compare what data tells vets versus what we think it's happening
Yeah.
with our pet owners, and it's not the same thing, right? And
Mm.
so data doesn't lie, and
Yep.
the whole effort behind Maven is how can we go from something very technical and very mathematical from a sensor to something that we call contextualized knowledge
Yeah.
about your pet and health insights that you can act on.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome as well. And you were mentioning the demographics as well, and it reminded me of the term that I said when we were having our first conversation, which in Portugal and Brazil, there's now a term which is the pet parents.
Pet
The
parents.
pet parents, right? It's just it's a huge thing. Maybe we don't have kids. No, I'm a pet parent,
Yep.
and it's like it's so much more common nowadays. And it's interesting. I think I love to understand if you agree with this as well. As humans, I think there's always that innate nature of trying to do as much as we can, even more than we would do for ourselves for others. So that's our kids, our family, our loved ones, but also most importantly, our pets. They are this creature that just makes our days so much happier. We all love them, and we want to do everything that we can to support them, but oftentimes we don't know how. But now there's that solution here, and that creates as you said, that's that clarity, so that you don't know, you don't have to guess. It doesn't have to be a process in which it's a lot of uncertainty, but that certainty comes around, and then you're able to act upon it in the best way possible for the pet, but also maybe save some money over here when you're wasting money on this type of treatment or et cetera,
Exactly.
whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
100%. I think that the thing people are most afraid of is the unknown, right? The
Mhm.
uncertainty, and to some extent, with our mobile app, you can just go into your Maven app. You can have like a quick understanding of how your pet is doing in terms of activity, sleep, all the health parameters
Mhm.
that we track, and then you can go on with your life, right? So we see
Mhm.
a lot of app sessions during lunchtime. You are at work, your pet is at home. You just want that sanity check that everything is fine, right? So people
Mhm.
today they use a lot of cameras
Yes.
to track their pets, but they are not always on camera. You cannot count respiratory rates on camera. You cannot know if they are itching every
No.
time. So there's limitations to a camera.
Yes.
Obviously, we have plenty of users that have Maven and the camera
Yes.
because that's what they are looking for. They are looking for
Mhm.
this peace of mind, like peace of mind, saying that my dog or my cat are doing fine. I
Mhm.
can just go on with my life or enjoy the good things about having
Yeah.
a pet, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome, and thank you for sharing all this. I find it so exciting. I would love to shift our conversation here now onto the business itself, onto Maven, because it's such an interesting concept. And I'm not sure, are you guys the only ones that do this? Is there anyone else out there? I haven't personally heard of it.
Yeah. So so wearables for pet have been around since I would
Mhm.
say 2015, so 10
Okay.
years ago. Um, until now, all wearables were focused on location, right? So it was a
Mm.
GPS tracker for
Yes.
your dog or your cat, right? And so pets escaping, it will always happen, right? So pets will always escape. There's always one escape artist in every corner.
Yeah. Open the door
Um,
and they're gone.
there you go. Yeah. And so people will always be concerned about location, right? But on
Yes.
average, a pet escapes once on their lifetime, right? So you have a product that is intended for that very specific use case
Mm-hmm.
that people are afraid of, and so
Mm-hmm.
they get those products, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Maven is different. It's
Yes.
health first, health only. This is just like
24/7.
24/7. We monitor your pet. We understand the baselines. We have a whole set of data sets and algorithms that label the behaviors and
Mm-hmm.
understand whether or not something is wrong. So with this like health first position, Maven is the first one.
Awesome.
With working close with the vets, with the universities, with research centers, it's only us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I wanted to highlight one of the things that I always like to highlight here in the podcast is that business can have so many amazing things that come from it. So many one amazing results that can help for the family owner of the founder. All these things for the people that get impacted by it. But then oftentimes, looking from an outsider view, people look towards a company and they say, "Wow, sunshines and rainbows. It's so easy to do." And we all know that that's not true. So I
Nope.
always like to highlight some of the challenges, some of the obstacles, some of the hurdles in making stuff happen and being able to achieve the impact that we're looking to achieve, just as you're doing with Maven as well. So tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me some about the a little bit about the obstacles, about the hurdles in when looking at the growth of the company and increasing the impact that you guys are trying to achieve.
Yeah. So it's there's plenty of challenge, right? So we could spend 10 hours just talking about challenges of growing and developing a startup, right? So I think early on was the biggest challenge was that I cannot bootstrap Maven, right? So we've built everything internally, from the sensor to all the data algorithms to the mobile app to a web app for the clinicians. And so it took like we spent 3 years building the product before testing it into the market, right? And so obviously we did our research, a lot of user interviews,
Yes.
a lot of surveys. We already knew the market, but at the same time, we spent like 3 full years just building and testing the product internally and having like friends and family testing the product and external betas just providing feedback. But we needed cash for that, right? So we need to build a team. I need a tech team. So that was the initial hurdle. And then now that we're in the market, it's like the constant search for product market fit, right? So today we have people that love Maven and they are obsessed with it and they cannot go back. And if a payment charge fails, they go crazy because they cannot live without Maven, and that's perfect. But we are still trying to understand how can we make Maven a product for every pet owner, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the impact that you want to have, right? So 100% that a dog with a heart problem will benefit a lot from Maven. But I also want to guide the market and educate the market towards like, even if your dog is healthy, or even if you think that your dog is healthy, maybe the signals are there. So educating people on this preventive mindset is still a challenge that we have today.
Interesting. It almost sounds like because of the perception and everything looks fine, right? It looks fine. It seems like everything's all right. There's never that certainty. And it sounds like it's being able to show people like, hey, even though everything might seem okay, oftentimes the eyes are lying because there are so many things internally that don't get shown, and it's not easy to see. So how much is the health of your pet worth the cost of that uncertainty?
Exactly.
In my opinion, no. But it's being able to re-educate the market. And also, let me know if this is incorrect as well. But even I had no idea something like this existed before we connected. So it sounds like even that awareness of people like, hey, this is something that exists, that is out there and can help you solve many of the problems that sometimes you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a very, very novel product, right? So a lot of our clients, they don't even know something like this existed, right? So the wearable market for pets, I think it has like below 1% penetration in the US. Okay, and so there's plenty of room to grow. That's why we try to push people to recommend these to their friends and family. That's why we work side by side with vets so they can also recommend Maven or mention Maven on more complex situations. But it's to your point, Joao. It's really interesting to see people that start to rely on Maven to guide their pet care, right? So just again, I love to give interview examples because that's the best way to speak about my product.
Yes.
Just the other day, one of our users, she's a cat owner. She was saying like, I already know the moment I receive a push notification on Maven say that the itching is increasing, that she's waking up more often in the middle of the night, it's time for a ear cleanup, right? So
Mm,
I mean, normal pet owners are they don't understand, or they don't know when it's right time to do this or that. And so
mm-hmm,
now that they have, like, there's a signal,
mm,
we notice a pattern, maybe it's time. We actually recommend them. Maybe it's time for
mm,
ear cleanup. And so I like to say that your pet could be in pain, your pet could be suffering, your pet could be not in a good health status. When you get home, when you play fetch, when you go to the park, they will always be happy, right? But it's like,
mm,
it's at night when they are alone that
mm,
the signals that something is wrong, they start to appear, right? So
mm,
early on, in conversations with investors, in conversations with pet owners, there's always people that think, oh, but if something is wrong with my pet, I'll be able to see. Okay. And
yeah, yeah,
yes, you will be able to see when it's on a late stage, right? Maybe your
yes,
dog, just like it happened to me, my dog before Maven, it was way before Maven. The moment I acted on the problem that my dog was having was when he was no longer able to stand up by himself.
mm,
Of course, I can see that my dog is no longer able to stand up by himself. But obviously, when I took him to the vet, it was already too late
yeah,
on his joint problems, and there was
mm-hmm,
basically nothing we could do. Today with Maven, we have publication precisely for this use case, joint problems, that we can flag flare-ups on an early stage. We can understand
yeah,
early on
yeah,
these incremental and changes on the behaviors of the pet
yeah,
that might indicate that something is wrong. And so I
yeah,
think it takes a lot of time to
yeah,
educate, for people to be aware products like this exist, and the impact that we want to have is precisely to move from an industry that has been 100% reactive, right? So you just
oh,
take your dog or
yeah,
your cat to the vet when you think that
yeah,
something is wrong, to something more preventative, right? More than
yeah,
preventive, to something
man,
proactive, right? So
yeah.
here's a problem, I'm on top of it, I know something is odd, I'll act on it. Yeah.
Man, that's thank you for sharing that story and that connection as well, because I think it's so true. It's literally all reactive. And yes, as you said, you'll be able to see, but it's too late. Like, is it worth waiting so that you can visually see the problem to then not be able to fix the problem? It's such an interesting dynamic. As like, we want to help as humans, but we also are like, oh, we know best. Like, no, we
Yep.
don't. Sometimes we don't. And it's
Yep.
just being able to own that up and not have, oh man, you said that it's been 100% reactive and we have to be proactive and engaged.
Exactly.
I really, really love that a lot. I have two final questions here for you, Guy, which is, one is a question that I ask for everyone in the podcast, and I'll start with that, and then we'll go on to the final one. And the question is this: let's say you had a magic wand that could just solve one challenge in the company, one obstacle, one hurdle, whatever you like to call it, to achieve all your revenue goals, client acquisition goals, all your impact goals. You solve this one, solve one thing, just one. I know there's probably many, but just one. What's the thing you want to solve?
Ooh, okay, cool. I like that question. Um, I think I think I think it goes back to what we were saying early on. It's
Mm,
I would instantaneously educate
mm,
everyone that being preventive on our pets' health can have a huge impact on their health,
mm-hmm.
on their longevity, on their even on the owner's wallet, right? Because
Yeah,
because solving a problem on a late stage, it takes more time, more
yeah,
money,
yeah,
more
yeah.
effort than on an early stage. So it's like,
Mm,
I would just let everyone know that we can do more for our pets with a solution like ours. And I think
that's awesome.
that would solve a lot of my go to market and
Sure.
education challenges.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it also, like, in a way, to what you just said too, it also gets rid of so much of the mental real estate that gets occupied by the stress and the worry and all these things that can just be taken away by looking at an app on our phone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you will have the answers right there. You don't have to be
exactly.
wondering and wondering and wondering. It's like, it's so seamless. So
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that. I like that a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Then I have one final question for you here, which is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no
Oh,
idea
cool.
who you were. So here's the question. You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
How do you think about your approach to company culture?
Ooh, say that question again.
How do you
How
think about your approach to company culture?
how do you think about your approach to company culture? Um, I like that. I think once someone told me, like, the first 50 people you hire for your team will um, decide what culture you will have when you
Mm,
are 10 times that number,
Mm-hmm.
500. And so I think culture needs to be something that happens natural because of the people you hire, right? So obviously you
Mm-hmm.
can have processes and ceremonies, and you can celebrate the small wins. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we actually need to work on that matter. We forget to celebrate small wins sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the culture is created based on the people you have around you, based on a mission. Okay, so I
Yep.
think
Yep.
everyone at Maven as an amazing opportunity to work on a product that is actually impacting lives of
Yeah.
both pets and pet owners. And the way we see the results of our pets is through use cases. Like every month my clinical team goes to a use case of how we change the life of this pet, right? So how
Yes.
we
Yes.
detected early on
Mm-hmm.
that this cat suddenly had a spike on the respiratory rate, which might indicate there's some liquid on the lungs, so you need to
Yeah.
go to the vet as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Or how we help this pet owner with a senior dog that thought that the dog was just getting older, and it turns out it was actually dealing with some sort of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we measure success, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part of how we think about culture, because
Yeah.
ultimately I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
team that's aligned with the vision. We all believe in what we're doing. We all have meaningful impact on the product, and the product has meaningful impact on actual people's life.
Guilherme Coelho, everyone, thank you so much for this. This has been such an incredible, so insightful. One of the most exciting talks I've had because, man, it's such a. I can't emphasize enough how much I love the product as well. So phenomenal, Guilherme. Where can everyone go to learn a little bit more about you, and of course, a little bit more about Maven Pet as well?
Yeah, so they can just visit our website, maven.pet, as simple as that. And I can share also my email. So it's g@maven.pet. So if you have crazy ideas, if you love pets and just want to spend some time discussing the industry with me, feel free to reach out. Or if you just want to be a subscriber, maven.pet, go have a look.
Amazing. I will leave everything down below here if you want to check that out. And for anyone that's still listening and you want to hear more conversations like this, please hit the subscribe button and I will see you on the next episode. Guilherme, thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you, João.